So I have received a comment of someone who says he has a restless mind, and he thinks the reason for his inability to just rest and relax is the reason for that is that he has a lot of desires. For example, he has this desire to become peaceful. And he's listening to some spiritual teachers, including me, that say that there's nothing to attain, there's nothing to do, you can just be and relax. Which is true. But then the mind turns this advice into a doing. You want to do it right. Like, what's the method to do non-doing right? And he says the mind is restless, it wants to think, it wants to become, it wants to attain, it is restless. So there are methods that are given by teachers. They will tell you just focus on, silence. Just focus on music, focus on your breath. And it depends on your state of being. It could be useful depending on your state of being, on whether you are very neurotic. But there are some people who to whom it is not of use, because when the mind is restless, then what happens is that it's not the restless mind that is bringing lots of suffering, but the separate self that feels like I am experiencing this restlessness and I need to control it. So now I'm the separate self experiencing this chaos in my mind, and I need to use a method that works. You see? And now this separate self is using a method. Okay, let me focus on stillness. So I'm ignoring this chaos in the mind. And now the separate self is focusing on silence. And it works. It's a method that can be used to create silence. Then there's an absence of chaos. And what can happen is that the separate self starts to celebrate, because now there's the separate self being alone without having any thoughts. But what remains is there is still a feeling of effort. You need to sustain this state of being, of no thoughts. And it is scared of having thoughts because the separate self is here. It's like, I need to have silence, I need to have peace. I have to practice constantly, focus on my breath, focus on the stillness, focus on meditation music. And now this person is suffering from a restless mind. And it seems like you have already tried methods like focusing on the stillness and trying to control the mind, trying to control this traffic that is happening in the mind. Now, that is still in duality, because there's this split in the mind. I'm here, I'm the meditator, and there's this mind, and I want to get rid of it. I want to get rid of this mind. Let's do something to get rid of this mind. Let's seek for the best advice from the best guru. And now me as the separate self, I can use this advice to get something for myself. Now, as long as you are practicing, there's always certain effort involved. When there are waves on a pond, and then you're trying to still the water by using exercises and methods, then you will always be trapped. You will always feel like something that is experiencing this pond and is suffering or benefiting depending on what the pond is doing. And the thing is that this experience of being someone that is experiencing this pond and is suffering it, that's the illusion. So if there is chaos in the mind, don't try to control it next time. And this will feel wrong in the beginning. But you have to understand that when you are using a method to improve your meditation, then it will just improve the meditator. But the meditator is the separate self. Meditation has to feel absolutely effortless, to such an extent that it is no longer interesting if you are good at meditating, if you are an experienced meditator, how enlightened you are, how awake you are, comparing yourself with other people who are trying to expand their consciousness. It is just an effortless state of being in which nothing has to be done. It's just no practice. And you can do it right now. It's just when there is restlessness in the mind, it's thinking, I want to become this, I want to become that, I want to attain peace, I want to, these are waves on the pond. Allow them to be. And that's it. Buddhists say, just imagine that you're coming home from a hard day of work and now you're just sitting down on a comfortable chair and you're just enjoying that you don't have to do anything. You just enjoy that you don't have to do anything. In that moment you are enlightened. It's just that. But then the mind comes back, I have to do something, because we are so conditioned to be identified with a doer. We are identified with being the practitioner. I have to meditate. I am the meditator. Effort. Put in effort to attain effortlessness. That's the illusion. It doesn't work like that. So, if there is chaos in the mind, what's the most effortless way you can handle this situation? Just allow it to be, or try to regulate it. Just allow it to be. So allow those waves to be, those waves on the pond, just allow them to be. And suddenly the one that's experiencing those waves is disappearing, and then there is just the ocean. Or the pond. There's no wave and the pond, there's no one that's watching the pond, there's just the pond. You are the experience, is what I'm trying to say. And then there's no effort anymore. And it is hard to, I cannot turn it into a practice. I cannot tell you, just do this. Just relax, because the mind will turn it into a practice of relaxation. I'm better at relaxing than you. That's what the mind will try to get at, because that's the ego. The ego is actually not trying to be happy. It is important to be happier than others. That's the happiness of the ego. It is always comparing. So it wants to become a better meditator, and it is comparing itself with itself. But in this true meditation, which is also called non-meditation, then there's no practice. Nothing needs to be attained. That means that when I'm telling you that nothing has to be attained, you shouldn't interpret something into these words and think that when you don't want to attain anything, that means that you're automatically going to have a still mind. That's not what I'm saying. When I'm meditating, there are still thoughts. And I'm sure that when Mooji or Eckhart Tolle or people who are awake, when they are meditating, they still have thoughts. There's just no need to control it. So compulsive thinking is not the problem. It's this compulsive doing. That's the problem. Even mental doing. Trying to find the right method and then doing it compulsively. Having to do it. Being attached to a practice. Because there's a certain hope. There's a hope. You think that if I practice it and I'm doing it right, then I will get there. There's a hope. But when you can finally see that you don't need that practice, you are being, then there is liberation. There's no separate self anymore. It's just the happening of life. Feelings are how they are. The mind is how it is. Life is how it is. And this illusion of being a separate chooser, doer, practitioner, meditator that is apart from the happening of life, it disappears. And when that disappears, then there's no practice needed. There's no practice that will get you to the absence of practice. There are some people who have very neurotical behavior, and to give them a sense of relief, I will tell them to focus on the silence. But that's not the end goal. The end goal is to simply be like a newborn that is just doing nothing. It's just too simple for the mind. So I'm trying to put it very simply. If you can pause the video right now and you say to yourself, I don't have to do anything. I'm not doing a practice. I'm not trying to get anywhere. I'm just being. Even if there's stress, there's no need to get rid of stress. There's no need to get rid of tension. No need to get rid of thoughts. Just the absence of trying to get anywhere. There may be a sensation or an appearance or a thought that says, I want to become this. And it's just there. There's no need to get rid of that feeling. It's just, alright, allow the mind to think that. There's no separate self that is suffering from this thought. Just doing nothing. And if thoughts arise, a lot of thoughts, thought after thought after thought, then there might be an arising of a feeling that somehow creates the sensation or the feeling of being someone that has to do something to interrupt this stream of thoughts. Just be aware of it and tell yourself that you're not trying to practice something. Allow those thoughts to be. They will lose their power. It's like the thought entity is trying to punch you. But you're not there. You're transparent. Because you're not doing. And then it will lose its power because it can only throw punches as long as it's punching something. And then it has to disappear. Then the pond will get still. But it doesn't have to be still. It's just about this recognition that actually there is no doer. There's no doer. That's it. So that's real meditation. Having no motive. No goal that says I need to still my mind. You know, there was a time when I was stressful. I was always I was in a stressful, you know, the body was just tight, feeling tight, and there was a lot of thoughts. And it felt like it was happening to me. So I was doing some research, how to relax. And of course, the advice of the internet was to meditate. But I wasn't really comprehending, like, what does it mean to meditate? How to meditate? And there were so many techniques. Focus on the stillness. Don't get lost in the thoughts. Stay present. A lot of doings. And those doings were the reason for my suffering before I was trying to meditate. So meditation, the doing of meditation, the practice of meditation was just another source of suffering. Until I stopped meditating and started to just be. No meditator, just beingness. No separation. So the thoughts are not the problem. The one that's trying to change the thoughts is the problem. That does not need to be solved because you just have to see that it does not exist. You cannot solve a problem that does not exist. Just see that the problem is imagined. And let go, be, allow. And that's it. Alright? So, make sure to give this video a like, leave a comment and subscribe, and have a great day.